Hello, happy Friday. This is an impromptu live. I'm actually at a business planning day at a beautiful hotel in the Central Coast. And as I was in the business planning day sharing more about my plans and intentions for the year ahead and what I wanted, and talking to other entrepreneurs about their business growth ideas, it made me realize that there is a need for people to recognize the link between self-leadership and commercial negotiation skills. Now, when I worked at the Gap Partnership, I had been blown away by how much I learned about how self-leadership and commercial negotiation are intrinsically linked. And I wrote an article which is available on my LinkedIn page for you to read. But I thought I'd talk to a few of the key principles because they've come up today in the conversations that I've had with the different women at this business planning day. The first one is around recognizing that we are more equal than you think we are. So in a negotiation, we often feel like the other party has the upper hand, that we are somehow potentially less than, that they might have more power. And if we allow ourselves to believe that, the danger is we extend them more power than they may actually have. Now, when it comes to everyday life, and especially in environments where you're surrounded by ambitious people that are all doing amazing things, and say you're thinking to yourself, oh gosh, I wish I could do that. That's amazing, but I'm not as good as that person is, or they've got more leverage because they've either more financially resourced up, or they've got the backing of friends and family, or they've got experience in a certain industry and they've had a leg up in other ways. We can easily convince ourselves that we are not as equal or as capable as the other party that we're talking to. Now, in a negotiation, if we give our power away by thinking the other party has more power, we've given them leverage, and ultimately leverage is what governs the value of things. So the person that's got more power can typically drive the value of something up or down. Now, if we give our power away at a personal level, then we are diminishing our value in relationship to the aspirations that we have for our lives, what we're trying to achieve, and the goals that we're trying to obtain. So the first one is to recognize that you are more equal than you think you are. And if you can go into any situation, even if you're with a group of people that are super inspiring, super energizing, and you're starting to feel like you're less than, I want you to just to ground yourself in the moment and say, no, I am more equal than I think I am. And even if in this moment I don't believe it, I have to change my narrative around that. Otherwise, I'm giving my power away. The second principle that I wanted to talk about is another commercial negotiation principle, is around always being in charge, being in charge of yourself, being in charge of the way the negotiation process is run, and being in charge of how you want the other party to respond to what you put to the table. So it's all about recognizing at each part of the process in a negotiation that you're not leaving things to chance, that you are focused on being in charge. Now, when it comes to an environment in our personal lives, and what does this have to do with self-leadership? Again, it's that recognition that if we want to achieve certain goals, achieve certain outcomes, we have to be in charge of a number of things. In charge of the thoughts that we think, in charge of the feelings that we experience, in charge of the stories that we tell ourselves, and start to recognize whether being in charge of those stories, thoughts, and feelings, whether or not they're serving us, or whether or not we're allowing ourselves to then be taken out of our sense of confidence, our sense of capability around our skills, and giving our power away in another aspect by not being in charge. So when you recognize that you are in charge, you are ultimately taking full and complete responsibility for how you show up. Now, that can be scary because it also means that when things don't go to plan, if we're in charge, then it's on us to own what didn't work out and to recognize that it didn't work out and to put plans in place for next time to ensure that we continue to remain in charge of the outcome that we're trying to achieve. But being in charge and telling yourself that you need to be in charge allows you to recognize that by doing so, you're taking agency over yourself and your leadership. And when it comes to commercial negotiation, being in charge serves you incredibly well. It's not about being the puppeteer at the mercy of someone else's show. It's about being the master of your own self and the outcomes that you are trying to achieve. Now, the third thing I wanted to share was around people valuing things that are hard to obtain. And I know this is true for me, because if things come easy to me, I'm feeling like, oh, well, that came too easy. Perhaps it wasn't worth as much to me as something that is much harder to obtain. Now, being part of a business mastermind group and at a planning day today, where I'm reflecting on what I want to create the next year, where I want to take my business, what I'm trying to do, it's recognizing that the things that are most valuable to me are the ones that I know I have to extend myself to work harder towards to obtain, because the reward and the sense of satisfaction that comes with that journey is commensurate to essentially the effort that I put in. And as much as I would like things to come easy to me, I definitely have a conditioning that says I value things that have come to me in a harder way much more. Now, in negotiation, we know that's true, because if we easily give information away, or we make something too easy for the other party to get from us, we know that us being generous ultimately makes them think that it was way too easy to give from our side, therefore there must be more. It gets them greedy, they want more, and then we're left feeling like perhaps we were too generous too quickly and other people haven't valued what we have offered. Now, in our personal lives, this can be true. If we make ourselves too available, if we're not boundaried with our time, if we're not considering the ways that we are making ourselves easily available, and in the entrepreneurial world, time, resources are limited. So recognizing that when you are putting boundaries around your time, putting boundaries around what you give away for free, then what you're offering can feel more scarce to individuals. It becomes harder to obtain your time. It becomes more valuable, and therefore people are likely to value it a lot more. And in day-to-day time with your family and your friends as well, if you are recognizing and cognizant of your own value, and therefore not necessarily saying you have to make people work for it to get your time, but if people know that it doesn't come freely and that they can't just waste your time and it'll be okay, then actually they'll value the energy and the effort that you put into those relationships. So there's a huge correlation between your personal life, your self-leadership at work, and also commercial deals. Finally, there's probably two more I want to share with you very quickly, is recognizing that in a commercial negotiation, you don't want to say what you can't do. You always want to focus on saying what you can do. And the reason for that in a commercial negotiation is, if we say we can't do something, then it immediately closes down options. It immediately makes the other party feel like they're not able to progress this conversation to an amicable solution that's going to create value for all parties involved. Now, by shutting down conversations, then that's not allowing us to explore opportunities to create value together. So by saying what you can do rather than what you can't do is taking a more positive approach to There we go. I'm on my mobile, so I'm hoping this is not cut out. So with regards to how it applies in your personal life, is to recognize that we often tell ourselves all the things that we can't do instead of telling ourselves all the things that we can do. And when it comes to a self-leadership space and understanding the life that we're living, we have to recognize that constantly telling ourselves things that can't be done, again, closes us down to looking for opportunities to invite value in our life, because we're not open to exploring them. But when we understand that we are open to exploring value, creating ideas, because we're focused on, oh, well, I'm not sure about this just yet, but I can definitely do this. What we do is create energy and momentum for the things we want so that we can start taking more proactive action towards achieving the goals that we have set our sights on. So always focus, whether it's in commercial negotiation or in your personal life, in your self-leadership space, focus on talking about what is possible, not what is impossible. What you feel you can't do, focus on what you can do. And finally, what I want to end on is to recognize that we don't get what we deserve in life, because life absolutely is not fair. And as much as we would love for it to be fair and everyone to have the same opportunities and equal access to resources and support, the reality is that we don't. So life is not fair, neither is negotiation, and therefore we don't get what we deserve in life or in negotiation, but we do get what we negotiate. Now, when it comes to self-leadership, you get what you negotiate when you negotiate with yourself. Now, are you negotiating for the possibilities that you want to create, or are you negotiating for the failures that you want to focus on, or the areas of discomfort that you have? Now, I'm doing this live as an impromptu live on a Friday without it being scheduled. And I have felt so much discomfort and resistance to doing this, because the idea of jumping on, doing impromptu videos, talking to a screen, especially on my mobile, isn't that exciting. However, what I've recognized with myself is if I open up the opportunity to negotiate an exit out of doing the things that I know would add value to the people I want to support, and cement my own sense of identity in honoring the way I am being, I practice what you preach, then I'm letting myself off the hook. I am negotiating an exit clause, but not negotiating to create value. I'm negotiating a win-lose scenario where the initial view is, oh, I've won because I've talked myself out of doing a LinkedIn Live because it feels uncomfortable. But the reality is the long-term cost of that initial win is actually a lose, because what I'm not doing is getting over the fact that it's uncomfortable. What I'm not doing is building up muscle to create the impact that I know I want to make in the world, and to do the things that I know I'm really good at, and to energize myself so that I can show up for those that I know I can support. So you get what you negotiate, not what you deserve. I deserve to be given a medal, which I'll give myself today, for showing up for, again, another LinkedIn Live, which does make me uncomfortable. But I recognize I get what I negotiate. And if I give myself the opportunity to negotiate a win-lose scenario, then nobody gains. But if I negotiate for a win-win scenario, I'm creating value, not only, I hope, for you, but also creating value for myself, which is building the muscle to do the things that make you uncomfortable so that you can continue to grow and get value in your self-leadership. So that's all I want to leave. Thank you very much. For anyone that's going to be watching this impromptu live, I don't know if there's anyone on live, but if you're on live, then great. If you're not, thank you very much for watching this afterwards, and I hope you have the most magical, transformative weekend. Enjoy.